Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. We are out here in Las Vegas in the United States for the announcement of AMD's brand new RDNA 3 GPUs. We've got 2 GPUs to check out today. We just had the keynote with Dr. Lisa Su, so let's get into a bit of all of the things that you need to know and what you don't need to know about these new Radeon GPUs. And a familiar face too.
What's up, Gear Seekers? That's right.
Gear Seeker.
It's Gear Seeker. That's right. AMD forced us to rename. Should be awesome. I hope you had all the right information.
I hope so too. But let's check out some of that information. AMD was talking about the world's first chiplet designed gaming GPU, which I actually found quite interesting. We actually got a bit of a hands-on with the die itself. What they're really saying is that this new GPU works in a couple different ways. They've got a graphics compute die, which is using 5nm TSMC. They've also got 6nm for the memory cache die here as well. Now, in terms of performance, they love to use this teraflops number. We're seeing 61 teraflops for the performance with 5.3 terabytes of throughput. In terms of the 7900 XTX, we've got 24 gigs of GDDR6. They actually told us why they didn't go GDDR6X, and it's mainly to do with price and also power consumption. Speaking of power consumption, one of the things that I predicted, and I actually had a conversation with a lot of people about this last night, was performance per watt, and that AMD would really push this. And they actually came out, and this was one of the first things they talked about, was a 54% improvement generation over generation from RDNA 2. Speaking of the cards, there's 2 cards that AMD is announcing. The RX 7900 XTX, which is the 24 gig card, and the RX 7900 XT, which is a 20 gig card. There's a lot of technical information that we saw from the presentation with dedicated AI accelerators, a lot of which you might not find that interesting. One thing I did find interesting in particular was they talked about AV1 encoding and decoding for content creation applications like Premiere Pro, which to me has always been a bit of a letdown with AMD products. Now, again, this is an announcement, not a launch, so it's hard to see what the performance is going to be like right now until we get our hands on cards. But one thing that I thought was quite interesting was how playful AMD was with NVIDIA, and they really pushed DisplayPort 2.1. Another thing I thought was worth mentioning was the fact that we didn't see any comparisons between any 40 series cards, and I think what's happening here is they know that it's not going to compete with the 4090. However, because there's no performance really for the 4080 as of filming this video, they're kind of being quiet with what they're saying the performance like, because I don't think they know how capable the card is yet compared to NVIDIA's offerings. Speaking of, here's something really important that I thought you guys might find interesting. Total board power for the 7900 XTX, you're looking at 355 watts, which is less than the 4090. We also are seeing with the 7900 XT 300 watts of board power. And another thing that was worth mentioning as well is AMD really made fun of the power connector situation by saying, look, 2 8-pin connectors are just about going to do. But in the Q&A session, we got a bit of an idea on the thought process of this. Now, this isn't something that they just decided to do overnight. They just had this plan for over a year with this power solution already. And they also said that we'll see AIB cards that may or may not use more 8-pin power connectors. So that is something to look forward to. What AMD is really pushing with these new cards is 4K high refresh rate gaming. I thought that was pretty interesting personally. We've got our good friend here, Gordon from PC World. What do you think about this new stuff from AMD?
I think it's looking very competitive, and if you don't know, yesterday AMD Scott Herkelman basically said we're gonna kick NVIDIA's effing ass. I think to paraphrase a little bit. They were very pumped about it. Again, you always have to wait for reviews. Performance looks like it's going to be respectable, very respectable. They think they basically are claiming that $1,000, $900 price point area, which I guess they probably can, because NVIDIA has a problem because they've got all those 3000 series. We don't know what 4080 looks like though, but I thought they did a really good messaging because they really hammered. Honestly, the performance thing, again, you got to wait for reviews, but here's the thing. The things that aren't there in 40 series, they're hammering them on. One, a lot of power. Two, you got to use 12-volt high power, the dongles. It's a smaller card, it uses less power. So they're really attacking NVIDIA kind of where NVIDIA's hurting right now, which is people are like, man, I can't fit these in, I have to buy a new case just to run these. So I think they're really pitched in a really good position, just not even getting into the performance thing, because, we got to wait for performance numbers before we can sort of really say. But honestly, when you're saying, we use less power, we fit in your same case, and, and they also have the AV1 thing now. I mean, it's a very competitive part. It's going to be awesome because the way I sort of see it is like Intel, which was like everybody's excited about AV1 a year ago, and then it never came out on time. Now everybody's got AV1, so who cares? The real question is, do you buy this or do you buy 40 series? Again, we wait for the performance, but it's going to be a real dogfight, I think. And I think AMD's in a really good spot with their chiplet design where they can give NVIDIA a hard time, because can NVIDIA get down from the prices they want for 4080, $1,200? That's $200 more. If this can outperform 4080, I think then, hey, they got a real message here. Question, can NVIDIA come down in prices? Are they going to come down in prices? Can they even do it?
We don't know yet. But one thing I actually thought was pretty interesting was how offensive, like on the offense rather, they were towards NVIDIA, which is something that AMD doesn't typically do. And to me, it kind of felt like competition's back, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very chippy, right?
Yeah.
They were the fact like, hey, look, they were showing we can do DisplayPort 2.1. Here are the hard limitations of DisplayPort 1.4. It was like pretty, because everybody was really kind of like, why didn't you do DisplayPort at least 2.0 on your card, NVIDIA? And they're hitting them there, and it really is just kind of like, there are some really good blows here, I think. Again, you got to wait for performance. But I mean, I don't think this is going to be an underperforming part, right?
I think it's going to be good. I had to laugh when they talked about the power connectors, because you guys know what the story is with the high voltage 12-volt stuff at the moment. It's a complete nightmare with the adapters, and we haven't actually covered it because I personally don't feel like there's a lot to talk about with it right now.
Yeah.
There's just not enough information yet. What do you think about these power connectors? Just on a completely unrelated note.
Unrelated, we don't know. Everybody's got to wait till they come back and say, here's what got screwed up.
Yeah.
My gut is bad contractor, whoever made these dongles for them, somebody didn't read through the entire document and screwed it up badly. The problem is, do they know who got the bad cables, who didn't get bad cables, right? And that's what my gut is, but we don't know. We're going to find out. I will say, the interesting thing is, it came up in the Q&A here, is like a lot of people, when it turned out that AMD is not using this power, people were like, oh my God, it's so bad, AMD changed their design not to use it. It's like, they never said that. They just said we weren't using it. The actual truth is...
They specifically said that they'd planned not to use it because it was too expensive.
Yeah, but it was a year ago,
Yeah, it
right?
was a
But
year ago.
they made that design decision a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like basically bad news came up and then now
Yeah.
they decided to. So I think it's a lot of people sort of conflated that. It's not really true, but
People don't understand that it takes a long time to design products as well. So the design choices are made long before something else happening with another vendor.
right. And then the other thing is, like, it really kind of started with NVIDIA. This was their baby. They are the ones that looks like they were the ones who were pushing the original 12-pin connector.
Yeah.
AMD's not going to start using something that came out of NVIDIA until everybody's got a hold of it and
Right.
they can do their own. So it's not. I can understand why they wouldn't do it, but that was again yet another direct hit. I mean, that's why it's really fun to see the competition, the chippiness,
Absolutely.
just kind of like punching each other. Which, it's not because we like it as media. We like to talk about the drama, but it's also good for consumers because that means there's real competition here. Real competition.
I agree.
Which I think that means better performance. The weird thing is we're not really seeing the lower prices. We're seeing better performance at higher prices. And it feels like we're not seeing things getting dragged down yet, right?
I think we spoke about this about an hour ago. They're not telling us everything. Like we just don't know what the story is. And this is what I always tell people. With these announcements, you're only getting the marketing spin on what AMD wants you to know right now. Because there was other things like we discussed as well with PCIe Gen 5 and in the Q&A session, and I think this is probably going to come out before like reviews and stuff, that it is not PCIe Gen 5.
Yeah, no, definitely they confirmed not Gen 5, and they said not this generation. And honestly, who cares? I mean, I know people want to say like, oh my God, why is there no Gen 5? Honestly, who cares? I know, and even for DisplayPort 2.1, which is nice to have, but is that really going to make a difference? I don't, but you know, people like to see bigger numbers, right? Because that's the new thing.
Well, it also looks like they planned to have 2.1 for a while as well. So, you know, they're kind of just using what they have at this point in time as an extra marketing spin, because NVIDIA was like, oh, you know. And AMD is just like, well, actually, it is a big deal. Right. So,
I mean, that's you could see they were having fun at NVIDIA's expense, because you didn't have this, you didn't have this, you did this. Yeah. So they were pushing all those. What do you think about the fact that this does not look like, on the face of it, is a 4090 competitor? I don't think so anyway, right? This feels like more of a, although it might be like a 4085 competitor, you know.
Well,
so.
the fact that they didn't actually mention any type of comparison between themselves and NVIDIA makes me believe that it's not quite 4090 performance. What do you think? But I mean, it's hard to say. I haven't got a card. I haven't tested it. I have had a little bit of a demo of the performance upstairs, or wherever it is, and it seems to be okay, but there's no frame rate counters on. We can't turn any of that stuff on. So, you know, it is like it always is with these launches, right? We just know nothing until we get the cards in our hands. But thank you, Gordon, very much for indulging me.
No, great to be on here. I want to do a video with you on BTX.
BTX. We are BTX enthusiasts from back in the day. That's a lot of information to unpack from everything that AMD showed us today. But the thing that everyone wants to know is the pricing, right? And here's where it gets pretty interesting. For the 7900 XTX, $999 US, and just take into account that is SAP, or the street estimated price as AMD calls it, or MSRP, whatever you want to call it, always subject to availability, ladies and gents. And as we've seen in the past, the board partners cards will be different prices. So that is a good estimate. And the 7900 XT is looking like it's going to be $899, and this is supposed to be available on December 13th of this year. So some pretty interesting things we've seen today from AMD, but as usual, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to see how the performance is, and only time will tell. Anyways, I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers, live from Las Vegas. I can't believe we're actually traveling halfway across the planet for this kind of stuff. You peak, we seek, and I'll see you back in Australia pretty soon. Thanks for watching.